Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. This is Six Path Weeb, your destination for deep anime analysis and thought-provoking alternate universe scenarios. Today, we're exploring a compelling concept that fuses two iconic elements from the Naruto universe. What if Naruko was a puppet master like Sasori? Disclaimer: the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's dive in. In a hidden leaf village not quite like the one most knew, a different kind of story was unfolding. The sun still rose over the Hokage monument each morning, and the rustling of trees in the wind still echoed the same. But somewhere in the quieter corners of the village, inside a small wooden shed attached to a quiet house, something strange clicked, whirred, and snapped into motion. This was the home of Naruko Uzumaki. Unlike the Naruko known to most of her classmates, this one didn't dream of being Hokage in the traditional sense. Sure, she wanted respect. Sure, she wanted to be recognized. But more than anything, Naruko was fascinated by the old things, the tools, the mechanisms, the hidden strings that made puppets dance and life unfold in secret. While others trained in taijutsu or practiced chakra control, Naruko was often found in that dusty shed, tinkering with wires, wooden limbs, and scrolls of chakra thread theory. It started when she was just 7. While exploring the edges of the village one day, Naruko had stumbled across a half-burned scroll caught in a tree root, buried beneath a carpet of moss. Most would have passed it by. But curiosity burned bright in Naruko's eyes. She tugged it free and unrolled it slowly. The writing was faded, the ink smudged, but the diagrams, those intricate sketches of human-like constructs with joints and seals, those were still clear. A forgotten treatise on Kugetsu no Jutsu, puppet technique. She read it over and over, even if some of the words didn't make sense yet. It didn't matter. She felt something strange when she studied the scroll, like it was waking up a piece of her she didn't know existed. Back then, she didn't have fancy tools or a puppet workshop. She built her first puppet from broom handles, discarded doll heads, and rubber bands stolen from the academy supply closet. It didn't move much. It made more clunks than strikes. But when it finally managed to wobble forward under the guidance of her first chakra threads, thin, flickering things like strands of moonlight, Naruko laughed so hard she fell backward onto the dirt floor, tangled in her own strings. Nobody knew at first. Kakashi, her reluctant sensei, assumed she was just terrible at regular jutsu. Sasuke ignored her. Sakura sighed whenever she brought out her scrolls of gears and bolts instead of kunai. But Naruko didn't care. She practiced in secret. She stayed late after class. She even broke into the archives once to read about famous puppet masters from the Sand Village, Chio the Wise, and Sasori of the Red Sand, whose creations were said to move like shadows and strike like lightning. But unlike Sasori, Naruko had no interest in turning people into puppets. Her creations were her friends. She gave them names: Momo, the dancing monkey, Genji, the shield bearer, and Hane, her first flying puppet with paper-thin wings. She talked to them. She built them personalities. Each one had a face carved with care and sealed with a drop of her chakra. That was the secret. While Sasori saw puppets as weapons, Naruko saw them as partners. One night, deep in the woods, she tested a new mechanism for Hane's wing flaps. The puppet soared, almost silently, through the branches, scouting the area with its tiny camera eye. It was the first time she felt like a real ninja, like she could be something more than the village pariah with a demon sealed inside her. And the best part? No one had taught her. Not Tsunade. Not Jiraiya. Not even Iruka-sensei. She'd taught herself. Through scraps, scrolls, and stubbornness. That made it hers. But things were changing. Word had begun to spread that the Sand Village had sent an elite team to the Chunin exams, and one of them was a puppet master. Naruko's heart skipped when she heard the name, Kankuro. She wondered, would his puppets be like hers? Would he think she was a joke? Or would he see the same fire in her that had sparked long ago in the desert winds? She didn't know yet. But she did know one thing. This time, when she entered the exams, she wouldn't come alone. She'd bring her team of puppets, and together, they'd show the ninja world that strings weren't just for control. They were for connection. The smell of sawdust always reminded Naruko of safety. Even when the world outside was shouting, even when the villagers whispered or stared, the moment she stepped into the little shed behind her apartment, the world grew quiet. In here, everything made sense. Gears clicked, wood shavings curled like tiny scrolls, and her chakra threads shimmered faintly under the glow of a single hanging lantern. She was 10 when she decided her puppets needed more than tricks and twirls. Momo could dance, yes. Ginji could shield her from falling branches. Hane could fly. But those were playful puppets, extensions of her joy, not protectors of her path. The scroll she'd found years ago had whispered of a different kind of creation. Puppets with compartments. Hidden tools. Defense and support. Not weapons, not for hurting, but for helping. For shielding. For standing tall when she couldn't. She remembered the day clearly, because it had rained all morning, and her apartment ceiling had leaked again. Puddles collected in the corners of the kitchen. Her instant noodles were soggy. But she didn't complain. Instead, she bundled herself in an old raincoat, 3 sizes too big, and dragged her box of scraps to the shed. She would call it Tetsuki, Iron Moon. Not because it was made of iron, it wasn't, it was mostly reinforced driftwood and broken drawer handles, but because it would be dependable like the moon. Always there, quiet, strong, and watching. She started with the frame. It was clumsy work at first. Naruko didn't have proper carving tools, so she used a kunai and an old metal file. Her fingers got splinters. She bandaged them herself and kept working. The arms had to be flexible but not floppy. She tried using elastic cord from an old pair of training sandals, threading it through the elbow joints so Tetsuki could bend and twist like a real person. Then came the compartments. She carefully sawed open a panel in Tetsuki's chest and fitted in a hollow space with wooden sliders, like drawers. Inside, she placed a small smoke bomb, not a real one, just a chalk puff made from powdered eraser and herbs, the kind Iruka used in classroom pranks. It would distract, not harm. In the other compartment, she nestled a set of tiny scrolls with sealing formulas she copied from her school books, harmless ones for storage, like spools of chakra string or spring-loaded nets. She painted Tetsuki's face last. It wasn't detailed, just a smooth oval with 2 calm eyes and a gentle smile. But Naruko took her time. She painted in silence, tongue poking out the corner of her mouth in concentration, until she was satisfied. Tetsuki didn't need to look scary. He just needed to look like someone who could protect her. As she worked, she talked to him like she always did with her puppets. You're not for fighting, okay? You're for helping. Like, if someone's in trouble, you help me help them. That's what we do. Her voice softened. You're my first battle puppet. But we're not going to hurt anyone. Just keep everyone safe. Even me. She pressed her forehead gently to his wooden one. When she was done, she tested him in the clearing behind the shed. Her chakra threads, still wobbly, still a little too bright, connected to his limbs with a shimmer. He moved stiffly at first, like someone waking from a nap. But as she adjusted the strings, added new anchors and reinforced his joints with little metal rings, Tetsuki began to step forward with steadier grace. He raised his arms when she pulled just right. He bowed when she released tension in the right threads. He even turned his head with a creaky nod when she focused extra chakra into his neck joint. And in that moment, standing in the drizzle under a gray sky with the soft crunch of leaves underfoot, Naruko beamed. She hadn't learned this from any master. She hadn't stolen anyone's style. This was hers. Tetsuki was hers. Not just a puppet, but a promise. She rolled up her sleeves, already dreaming of upgrades. Maybe one day he could carry her if she was tired. Maybe he could shield others, like a barrier wall. Maybe he could be more than a tool. Maybe he could be a friend. A week after finishing Tetsuki, Naruko couldn't sit still. She had that buzz again, the kind that tickled her fingers and made her mind race. It always happened when an idea landed in her head like a falling star. This time, the idea came from the forest. It had started during one of her walks through the woods near Training Ground 3. The rain had stopped and the leaves glistened like tiny green mirrors. She was thinking about how to improve Tetsuki's balance when a rustling sound caught her ear. Not dangerous. Just light and playful. When she turned, she saw a flicker of movement, something small, fast, and feathered, leaping from branch to branch. A squirrel? No, too quiet. A monkey? Nope. It landed on a tree root with a soft thump and stared at her with wide, intelligent eyes. An owlcat, a rare forest creature with the round face and feathers of an owl, but the agile body and swishing tail of a wild cat. They were shy, but this one lingered just long enough for her to study it. When it vanished into the branches, she whispered one word aloud. Perfect. By the time she got back to her shed, her brain was buzzing with ideas. She pulled out her sketch pad and started scribbling. Puppet name, Fukuramu, a mix of Fukuro, owl, and Nico, cat. Design goal, fast, light, smart. Not for battle. For scouting, distraction, and delivery. She wanted this puppet to be different from Tetsuki. More curious. More alive. She started with a small body frame, light and flexible, made from carved bamboo and bits of leather from an old pair of gloves. Its legs were jointed like a cat's, but with claws shaped to grip tree bark and stone. The head was round with big, shiny marble eyes and tiny ear tufts. She added soft feathered panels around the neck using scraps from a broken festival fan, giving it a ruffled, mysterious look. The hardest part was the tail. She wanted it to swish, not just flop around. So she used wire rings and a spiraling core of chakra thread, wrapping it so that when she moved her fingers just right, it would wave like a cat tracking a butterfly. And then came the wings. Tiny. Not for flying. Just for gliding, or maybe glimmering when the sun hit. She used folded paper reinforced with lacquer and chakra coating, turning them into delicate little sails. She added a few hidden compartments, one for scroll storage, one for dropping smoke puffs or ink markers for maps. She giggled as she worked. This puppet wasn't just practical, it was fun. Mischievous. Fast. By sunset, Fukuramu stood on her workbench, barely knee-high but full of energy. Naruko tested it carefully, her fingers dancing through her chakra threads. The puppet crouched, then pounced gently, its claws clicking on the wood. It spun once, tail twitching. Then it lifted its paper wings and hopped to the windowsill with a soft tap. Naruko clapped, beaming. Nice. You're fast, little buddy, she said. Maybe you can be my scout. Or my snack thief. Or, she paused dramatically, my secret delivery ninja. Fukuramu blinked its marble eyes, tilting its head. You're definitely the clever one, Naruko said. But I'm watching you. No stealing Dengo. That night, she took Fukuramu outside under the moonlight. The puppet darted through the underbrush, scampered up trees, and even glided short distances between branches. It was perfect for missions that needed speed, stealth, or distraction. She imagined it hopping through enemy camps, leaving little prank scrolls that puffed into glitter or flapping away with someone's hat. Tetsuki was her shield. Fukuramu would be her shadow. And this was only the beginning. The Chunin exams had turned the Hidden Leaf Village into a buzzing hive of ninja from every corner of the elemental nations. Market stalls were bursting, alleys brimmed with unfamiliar uniforms, and even the air felt thicker with chakra and nerves. Naruko, as usual, wasn't walking with her squad. She liked moving on her own, it made it easier to keep Fukuramu hidden in her hood or perched on her shoulder like a quiet forest guardian. The little puppet made tiny shifting noises as it adjusted its balance, always alert, always scanning. They were headed toward the academy courtyard for the team lineup briefing, and Naruko was late, as always. But someone else was already there. Leaning casually against a tree, arms folded, eyes half-lidded like a cat in the sun, was a boy draped in face paint and attitude. His outfit was bold, stitched with the signature colors of the sand. And behind him, slung across his back like a coffin, was something familiar, yet completely different. A puppet. Kankuro. Naruko slowed. Fukuramu shifted slightly under her scarf. The puppet's marble eyes peeked out from behind her orange hood. Kankuro's own puppet, Karasu, if the rumors were right, was locked in its shell, all limbs hidden. But Naruko knew a puppet when she saw one. The thick scrolls, the heavy joints peeking from the wrappings, and that faint gleam of chakra lines. He was the real deal. She should have kept walking. But just as she stepped forward, Fukuramu did something unexpected, it leapt. Not a full jump. Just a curious twitch. A gentle pounce forward, like a squirrel checking out a new branch. And it landed with a soft clack right near Kankuro's feet. The sand shinobi looked down sharply. For a second, he didn't react. Then his eyebrow arched. You dropped something, he said, voice dry. Naruko winced. Nope. He jumped. Curious little guy. Kankuro knelt and picked up Fukuramu by the side with surprising care. He turned it in his gloved hands, studying the mechanics, the threading, the balance. This is yours? He asked, almost skeptical. Naruko stepped forward, arms crossed. Yup. Name's Fukuramu. He's one of mine. Kankuro gave her a look, part disbelief, part interest. He's got gliding wings. Tail counterweight. Triple jointed ankles. He glanced up. You made this? On your own? Why? Not sharp enough for you? She teased, giving a grin. He smirked faintly. No. Just not what I expected. Most kids who mess with puppets go for bulk. Armor. You built a scout. More like a helper, she said, taking Fukuramu back and tucking him into her hood. He finds stuff. Follows me in the trees. Sort of like a teammate. Kankuro was quiet for a second. Then he gave a small nod, arms folding again. You know, he said slowly, when I started, I just copied the classics. Chio's builds. My brother's ideas. But this? He tilted his head. This is weird. In a good way. Naruko blinked. You mean that? Yeah, he said. Most puppet users treat their tools like weapons. Yours feels different. Like it's alive. Naruko smiled softly. They kind of are. At least to me. Kankuro chuckled. You ever study Sasori's techniques? She paused. The name hit like a spark on dry paper. Yeah. A little. He was scary smart. Also scary, Kankuro muttered. Turned people into puppets. Controlled corpses. Genius, yeah. But twisted. Naruko's gaze grew firm. I don't want that. My puppets aren't just for battle. They're mine. They're made to help, not hurt. Kankuro nodded, more serious now. That's rare. Even in the sand. Most of us go for power. You're going for heart. Naruko blinked. Nobody had said that before. Not even Iruka. Hey, he added after a moment, nodding toward the building. Good luck in the exams. I mean it. Hope your Fuku thing gets to see some action. The smart kind. Naruko grinned. Same to you. Don't let Karasu bite anyone by accident. Kankuro chuckled, turning back toward his squad. But Naruko lingered a moment longer, watching the way his puppet swayed slightly behind him like a shadow. Heavy. Hidden. Fukuramu nuzzled into her hood, clicking quietly. She whispered to it, don't worry. You're still my favorite. For the first time, she didn't feel like a weirdo with wooden toys. She felt like a real puppet master. Just not Sasori's kind. Her kind. The day after meeting Kankuro, Naruko arrived at Training Ground 9 with her usual bounce in her step and a scroll in each hand. Today was special. Not because there was a real mission. Not because she had new jutsu to try. But because her team, Team 7, led by the ever-distracted Kakashi-sensei, was finally doing something she had dreamed of, a team strategy exercise. And even better, Kakashi had agreed to let her use her puppets. Sakura stood under a tall tree, stretching. So, this isn't just another tree climbing exercise, right? Nope, Kakashi said, flipping a page in his orange book without looking up. This is a capture the flag game. 2 flags, one hidden by each team. You find the other team's flag and bring it back without getting tagged. Sasuke gave a skeptical glance toward Naruko. So, we're trusting puppets now? Naruko just grinned, unrolling one of her scrolls with a flourish. Trust me, Sasuke. You're gonna want Fukuramu on your side. With a flick of her fingers, chakra threads leapt from her hands, shimmering faintly like threads of morning mist. From the scroll, Tetsuki rose first, stepping solidly onto the grass with a gentle clunk of his wooden feet. Then from her hood, Fukuramu slid out, hopping to the ground and stretching his paper wings with a quiet flutter. Sakura blinked. They really move like they're alive. Naruko winked. They are, sort of. They've got heart. Kakashi clapped his hands. All right, split up. Sasuke and Sakura, you're on one side. Naruko, you're on the other. It's a 3-round game. First team to 2 wins. No real fighting, just tagging or puppet blocking. Got it? Got it, Naruko shouted, already scampering into the trees with her scrolls tucked under one arm. She and her puppets hid behind a low thicket, whispering their plan like it was a secret mission. Okay, Tetsuki, your defense. You hold the flag. Fukuramu, you're the eyes. We track, distract, and dash. Ready? The puppets didn't answer, of course. But they moved. That was enough. The first round started with Sakura hiding the flag in a bush, while Sasuke zipped into the treetops to guard. Naruko released Fukuramu with a soft command, her fingers twitching to direct it forward like a silent glider. The little owlcat puppet darted through the branches, dodging leaves and slipping through gaps in the brush. Naruko crouched low, guiding it like a conductor, her eyes gleaming. There, she whispered. Past that log, aha. Fukuramu perched above the bush, blinking its glassy eyes at the barely covered flag. Naruko smiled and sent it diving into a nearby bush, kicking up leaves and noise. Sasuke turned sharply. What was that? He leapt toward the sound, but Fukuramu had already retreated. Naruko grinned. "Thanks for the opening, buddy." She dashed forward, tapped the flag, and sprinted back toward her side, where Tetsuki stood like a silent guardian next to their own flag. Sakura laughed. "That was sneaky. You tricked us with your puppet." Naruko bowed. "Why, thank you. Round 2? This time, she and her puppets were on defense. Naruko planted the flag inside a hollow log and stationed Tetsuki in front, arms crossed in protective mode. "Think you can stop Sasuke?" she whispered. Tetsuki nodded slightly. Naruko's chakra threads twitched in reply. The moment the whistle blew, Sasuke came fast from the trees, but Naruko was ready. With both hands guiding her threads, she had Fukuramu flit across the field again, this time dragging a shiny red ribbon behind it like bait. Sasuke blinked. "What the?" The ribbon trailed through the trees, snaking toward a decoy spot, and while Sasuke turned to chase it, Naruko used her other hand to make Tetsuki lift a wooden shield from his back and block the log entrance entirely. Sakura soon caught on and shouted, "He's going the wrong way." But it was too late. Time ran out, and the flag remained safe. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, closing his book. Interesting tactic. Misdirection through aesthetics. Naruko grinned proudly. "Hey, puppets are more than battle. They're strategy, too." The final round was the closest yet. Sakura nearly tagged Naruko mid-run, and Tetsuki had to very gently knock over a small tree branch to help her dodge. Fukuramu trailed a chalk string through the underbrush, marking the path back, just in case they got lost. In the end, it was a draw. 2 clever teams, one very entertained sensei, and one extremely smug puppet master. As they packed up, Sakura came over and crouched next to Fukuramu. "You ever think about teaching us how you do it?" Naruko blinked. "You mean puppets?" "Yeah," Sakura said. "Not for battle. But for fun." That was really cool. Naruko looked at her puppets, Tetsuki folding himself back into scroll form, Fukuramu cleaning its paper wings, and smiled so wide it hurt. "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe I'll start a puppet team. You know. Puppets with purpose." Sasuke rolled his eyes but didn't argue. Kakashi just smiled behind his mask. In that moment, Naruko didn't just feel like a student. She felt like a leader. A puppet master. Her own kind of ninja. Some ninja trained with steel and sweat. Naruko trained with tea, wind chimes, and chalk dust. After the capture the flag exercise, her mind began to wander again, not from boredom, but from inspiration. Tetsuki was her protector. Fukuramu was her scout. But there was something missing. Something softer. She realized it one lazy afternoon as she sat on the edge of a roof, staring at the sky. Above her, clouds drifted like slow dancers, gentle, ever shifting, never in a hurry. They reminded her of water, too, how it flowed, curved, and adapted. She loved that. Ninjas were always told to be strong, to strike, to endure. But clouds didn't strike. They floated. Water didn't break walls. It wore them down gently, over time. She wanted her next puppet to feel like that. She wanted it to soothe. That evening, as the lanterns glowed in her shed and the village settled into its nighttime hush, Naruko got to work. She unrolled a scroll labeled Project Kumuami, CloudNet. This puppet wouldn't have claws or armor. It wouldn't fly or pounce. Instead, it would calm, comfort, protect quietly, like a traveling monk. The idea? A support puppet. A healer's assistant. A moving, gentle companion. She started with the shape, wide, rounded panels for the body, like overlapping clouds. Each piece was carved from pale birch wood, sanded until smooth as river stones. She painted them a soft white blue with a wash of lavender, like morning fog. The puppet's main body curved like a manta ray, designed to hover and float with long, ribbon-like limbs that trailed behind it like tendrils. Inside the puppet's shell, she carved tiny reservoirs with seal-lined valves, no poison, no darts. These were for mist. Not chakra-laced mist, just cooling steam infused with herbs, lavender, mint, eucalyptus, things she read about in books on natural healing. With a twist of her fingers, the puppet could release a calming mist to cool a fever, ease a headache, or soothe a stressed teammate. In another panel, she stored a small fan-shaped compartment containing bandage scrolls, gauze, and little first aid seals she practiced writing herself. She named it Shiomori, a mix of tide and forest. Because that's how she saw it, flowing, healing, peaceful. When she tested Shiomori for the first time, she didn't do it in the woods or on a mission. She took it to the hospital training yard. Not to show off. Just to see. The puppet hovered low, ribbons trailing behind it as it glided around like a floating jellyfish. A few medical nin paused, blinking at it with curious smiles. One even asked what kind of jutsu it used to move so gently. No jutsu, Naruko said, hands moving like a harpist's. Just threads. And a little help from the wind. She activated the mist feature gently, letting it release a soft puff of cool herbal air. A nearby child, waiting outside the treatment room, giggled and reached for the ribbons. Shiomori hovered closer and let him touch it. It was the first time she saw someone comforted by a puppet, not scared. And it felt right. Later that night, Naruko sat cross-legged beside Shiomori, gently polishing the curve of its winged frame. Fukuramu snoozed nearby, its wings folded like sleepy hands. Tetsuki stood silent as ever, always watching. "You're not made for battle either," she whispered to Shiomori. "But you're just as important." She looked at her trio and smiled. "Some people think puppets are only for fighting. But they're wrong. You're proof that puppets can heal. They can guide. They can help." Her fingers traced a seal on Shiomori's side. It hummed softly, like a heartbeat. That night, for the first time, Naruko dreamed not of winning the Chunin exams or becoming Hokage. She dreamed of a small team of gentle puppets floating through a forest after a storm, bringing warm tea, clean bandages, and soft laughter to tired ninja. Puppets with purpose. Her purpose. Training missions were supposed to be simple. That's what Kakashi-sensei always said. Low risk, high learning, he told them as they gathered at the edge of a shady forest near the outskirts of the Hidden Leaf. Today's mission: track a set of missing supply scrolls left behind after a mock battle exercise. They're somewhere in this area. Might be traps, false trails, or environmental tricks. Work together, use your tools, and don't break the scrolls. Sasuke crossed his arms. "So we're playing ninja hide and seek?" Sakura nodded. "Better than hauling potatoes again." Naruko said nothing. She was busy unsealing her puppets. Tetsuki thumped into place, standing ready with his broad limbs and sturdy shield. Fukuramu bounded onto a branch with a soft hop, already surveying the trees. And then came Shiomori. The moment the soft, cloud-like puppet unfolded its curved, pale blue wings and hovered beside Naruko, the forest felt quieter. The mist it released shimmered in the morning light, carrying a scent of mint and lavender. Shiomori's ribbons trailed gently behind it like the tails of a passing comet. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. "You're bringing the cloud pillow?" "It's not a pillow," Naruko said calmly, guiding Shiomori with a twist of her wrist. "It's support. You'll see." Kakashi looked over his book just long enough to give a lazy thumbs up. "Approved. Let's see what it can do." They split into teams of two. Sasuke and Sakura took the east trail, while Naruko and Shiomori headed west with Tetsuki and Fukuramu tagging along. At first, it felt routine. Tracks in the mud. Faint chakra signatures. Broken branches from a decoy scroll trail. Fukuramu zipped ahead to investigate, returning with soft clicks and a twitch of its tail whenever a clue seemed real. Then, about 30 minutes in, the unexpected happened. As Naruko and her puppets followed a narrow slope down toward a rocky ravine, Tetsuki suddenly stalled, his legs locking up. "Huh?" Naruko muttered. She tugged at her chakra threads, but they felt odd. Sticky. Stiff. She stepped closer and instantly regretted it. Her foot slid out from under her. Whoa. She landed hard on the grass. A faint shimmer surrounded her hands and ankles. "Trap seal," she muttered. "That's clever." The threads connecting her to Tetsuki and Fukuramu shivered, tangled in the thin mist of chakra lace through the ground. It wasn't dangerous, just meant to slow and scatter. And it worked. Tetsuki was out of reach. Fukuramu was twitching, trying to hop free. She reached for her backup kunai, then paused. No. This was the perfect moment. Naruko smiled and unspooled a fine line of chakra thread, this time reaching not for her scouts or her shield, but for Shiomori. Floating untouched above the seal's edge, the cloud puppet hummed gently in the air. Naruko whispered commands through her chakra, fingers graceful and sure. "Calm and flow. Go." Shiomori drifted forward, ribbons fluttering. As it moved, a soft mist flowed out of its side panels, not harsh or disruptive, just cool and clean. Where the mist touched the seal-marked grass, the glowing threads flickered and fizzled gently. Water doesn't force. It softens. As Shiomori hovered closer to Naruko, its mist slowly disrupted the chakra pattern, releasing the trap's hold with a quiet snap. Naruko sat up, wide-eyed. It worked. By the time Fukuramu hopped over to her and nuzzled her shoulder, the seal was gone and Tetsuki was moving again. "Nice job, Cloud Buddy," she whispered. She stood, dusting herself off, and directed Shiomori toward a shallow tree root where another faint scroll tag glimmered. Shiomori sprayed a focused puff of mist on the scroll. It shimmered, then turned transparent. Fake. Trap avoided. A few minutes later, Sasuke and Sakura returned from the other path, only to find Naruko sitting calmly on a log with all three scrolls stacked beside her, Shiomori hovering overhead like a sleepy guardian spirit. "You got all of them?" Sakura blinked. Naruko nodded. And didn't even break a sweat. Sasuke frowned at the mist floating gently around the clearing. "Did you cheat with some weird genjutsu?" "Nope," she said cheerfully. "Just teamwork. A little soft thinking. And a lot of cloud." Kakashi strolled into the clearing, eyeing the scene. "Well," he said, flipping his book shut, "I was going to tell you all the real goal wasn't scrolls, it was to see how you handle unexpected challenges. But it looks like Naruko beat me to it." He walked up to Shiomori, inspecting its hovering frame with a curious tilt of his head. "You turned a puppet into a floating chakra disperser. Most ninja wouldn't think of that." Naruko smiled. "That's kind of my thing now." Sasuke didn't say anything, but he stared at Shiomori a little longer before turning away. Sakura stepped closer and whispered, "It's like you made a sky healer." Naruko beamed. "That's exactly what I made." And for the rest of the walk back to the village, Shiomori floated beside her in silence, its presence calming and cool, like a passing breeze on a summer day. Naruko didn't just build puppets. She built peace. The village below glittered softly under the moonlight, like a sea of tiny stars caught in nets of shadow and light. Up on the quiet rooftop of the Hokage's old training building, Naruko sat cross-legged, her puppets folded neatly beside her. Shiomori's pale form glimmered faintly in the night breeze, and Fukuramu perched silently on her shoulder. A soft step approached from behind. "Kakashi-sensei?" Naruko looked up, surprised but not alarmed. He settled down beside her with a quiet sigh, pulling his mask a little higher to catch the chill. "Needed some fresh air," he said, eyes scanning the peaceful village. "Figured you might be here too." Naruko nodded, twisting her fingers in her lap. "I've been thinking a lot about Sasori." Kakashi's gaze flicked toward her, curious. "You mean the puppet master from the Sand Village? The one who became a missing nin?" Kakashi asked. "Yeah." Naruko's voice was soft but steady. "I always thought puppets were just tools for fighting, like weapons. But Sasori's story is complicated. He made so many puppets, but he lost himself in the process. I don't want to end up like that." Kakashi leaned back, his one visible eye thoughtful. Sasori was brilliant, but he believed that control and strength were everything. His puppets were extensions of his own loneliness and pain. They were perfect, but cold. Naruko looked at her own puppets, especially Shiomori, whose ribbons floated like gentle waves. "I want my puppets to be different," she said. "Not just weapons or shields, but friends. Helpers. Maybe even healers." Kakashi nodded slowly. "That's a harder path than it seems. Compassion takes courage. It means trusting others, and yourself, in ways that can feel risky. But it's also what makes a true ninja." Naruko smiled faintly. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm weak for wanting that. Everyone else trains to fight, to win, to protect with force. Strength isn't only about fighting," Kakashi said quietly. "Sometimes it's about knowing when to heal instead of harm. When to listen instead of speak. When to build instead of break." She glanced at him, surprised at the kindness in his voice. "Your puppets are a reflection of you," he continued. "And from what I've seen, you have more strength in your heart than most." Naruko's fingers brushed the edge of Shiomori's wing. "I want to prove that puppetry isn't just about control or power," she said. "It's about connection. About making the world softer. One thread at a time." Kakashi smiled beneath his mask, the silver eye crinkling at the corner. "You're already on that path. And that's what matters." The two sat in comfortable silence as the night deepened, the village breathing softly below, and the stars above offering quiet witness. Naruko and the mentor's visit. The sun was dipping behind the leafy hills around Hidden Leaf Village, bathing the streets in warm orange and pink hues. Naruko sat quietly in her workshop, the familiar scent of wood shavings and ink filling the small space. Her puppets rested nearby, Tetsuki folded in his scroll, Fukuramu grooming his paper feathers, and Shiomori softly humming as it floated near the window. She was just finishing polishing Shiomori's smooth curves when a soft knock came at the door. Naruko frowned, setting down her brush. Visitors were rare this late in the day, especially unannounced. She opened the door carefully. Before her stood a tall figure, cloaked in a loose dark robe embroidered with delicate designs of cranes and waves. His face was partially hidden under a wide-brimmed hat, but beneath the shadow, sharp yet kind eyes watched her. "Hello, Naruko," the man said, his voice calm and deep. Naruko blinked. "Do I know you?" He smiled gently. "My name is Hiroshi. I was a craftsman of puppets long before you were born. I worked with Sasori of the Sand Village." Naruko's eyes widened. "You knew Sasori?" Hiroshi nodded. "Yes. We were once apprentice and master, friends in our craft, though our paths later diverged. I have come because your work has reached even my ears, and I wish to share what I have learned, not just about puppetry, but about the heart behind it." Naruko hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. Her curiosity was piqued. A chance to learn from someone who had known Sasori was rare. Inside the workshop, Hiroshi set down a wooden box filled with carefully wrapped tools and pieces of carved wood. "May I?" Naruko nodded, and he began to unpack, showing her delicate mechanisms, joints made with precision and care. "Puppetry is as much about the soul as it is about technique," Hiroshi said. "Sasori lost himself because he built puppets that reflected his pain, not his hopes. Your puppets, they carry something softer." Naruko looked at Shiomori, floating calmly near the window. "That one," Hiroshi said, pointing to Shiomori, "is unlike any I have seen. You are weaving kindness into your craft. That is a rare gift." Naruko felt a warmth bloom in her chest. "But how do I stay true to that? How do I keep making puppets that help instead of hurt?" Hiroshi smiled, settling on a nearby stool. "It is a question every puppeteer faces. You must listen, not only to the world but to yourself. Puppetry is a conversation. Your puppets are your words, your feelings, your choices. When you build with compassion, you offer peace." Over the next hours, Hiroshi shared stories of his time with Sasori, how the young genius was brilliant but often closed off, how he created masterpieces yet struggled to connect. Naruko listened intently, absorbing each lesson and anecdote. As twilight deepened, Hiroshi presented her with a small carved pendant shaped like a crane, symbolizing hope and renewal. "Wear this," he said, "and remember, even the strongest puppets are nothing without the heart that guides them." Naruko clasped the pendant, feeling a promise in its weight. The night wrapped around the village like a soft blanket as Hiroshi prepared to leave. "Thank you," Naruko said quietly, "for coming. Keep weaving your threads, Naruko. The world needs more puppeteers like you." And with a final bow, Hiroshi stepped out into the night, leaving Naruko alone with her puppets, and a heart full of new purpose. The morning sun streamed softly through the workshop's open window, casting golden stripes across Naruko's workbench. The pendant Hiroshi had given her rested gently on her collarbone, a steady reminder of the promise she made last night, to weave kindness into every thread, every joint, every detail of her puppets. Naruko ran her fingers over the smooth surface of the pendant and then looked at the empty space before her, a clean slab of cedarwood waiting to become something new. Her mind danced with the stories Hiroshi had shared. Sasori's brilliance shadowed by loneliness, the delicate balance between control and compassion, the way puppetry could be a conversation instead of a command. She wanted to build a puppet that didn't just protect or fight, but one that would truly connect with people. A friend that could listen, help, and bring a quiet strength. She picked up a thin piece of birch wood and began to carve slowly, imagining the shape taking form. This time, it would not be an animal or a creature, but a figure inspired by the wind itself, invisible but felt, gentle but powerful. The puppet would embody freedom, hope, and subtle guidance. Naruko shaped the frame slender and elegant, with long arms that curved like willow branches swaying in a breeze. Its face was smooth and peaceful, with eyes carved open wide, as if always ready to see and understand. For the joints, she used flexible cords wrapped carefully in silk threads dyed in soft blues and greens, the colors of a clear sky and calm seas. The puppet's fingers were delicate, designed not for gripping weapons, but for gentle touch and gesture. Inside the chest cavity, Naruko built a small compartment filled with tiny scrolls, messages of encouragement she could write herself. These scrolls would flutter from the puppet's hand like leaves, meant to be given to friends in need. She called this puppet Kazero, the Wind Guardian. As she worked, she thought about the lessons Hiroshi had shared. Puppetry was a conversation, a sharing of heart and spirit. Kazero wasn't just a puppet. It was a symbol of listening, healing, and the unseen support that carries us through difficult times. When Kazero was finally complete, Naruko gently lifted it from the workbench. The puppet moved fluidly under her chakra threads, its long limbs flowing like ribbons caught in a gentle gust. She smiled, feeling a quiet joy fill her chest. "Thank you, Hiroshi," she whispered softly, "for teaching me to build with heart." Kazero's eyes seemed to shimmer in the morning light, a silent promise to be the friend she hoped it could be. The morning air was crisp and alive with the chatter of young ninja preparing for their next training exercise. The Hidden Leaf's training grounds buzzed with energy as squads gathered to test their skills and teamwork. Naruko stood with her team, Fukuramu, Tetsuki, Shiomori, and the new arrival, Kazero. The slender puppet's smooth limbs shimmered softly under the sun, its calm presence a gentle contrast to the usual hustle. Sakura looked curious. "That's the new one, right? What does it do?" Naruko smiled, feeling the familiar warmth in her chest. "This is Kazero, the Wind Guardian. It's not built for battle. It helps keep us calm and focused, carries messages, and supports the team when things get tricky." Sasuke raised an eyebrow, arms crossed. "A puppet that doesn't fight?" "Exactly," Naruko said, nodding confidently. "Sometimes, the strongest help comes from quiet support." Kakashi, watching nearby, gave a rare approving nod. Their exercise was simple: navigate through a maze of ropes and obstacles while retrieving hidden scrolls. But there was a twist: each team member had to rely on their puppet's unique skills. As they stepped into the course, the rope swayed lightly in the breeze. Fukuramu leapt ahead, scouting the path with sharp eyes. Tetsuki moved steadily, shielding the group from traps marked with soft flags. Naruko sent a gentle thread to Kazero, and the puppet glided beside her, its long arms sweeping the air as if brushing away worry. When Sakura stumbled over a hidden root, Kazero reached out, its fingers softly touching Sakura's arm, the silk cords vibrating with a calming rhythm. Sakura smiled, steadying herself. "Thanks, Kazero." When Sasuke found a confusing fork in the ropes, Kazero extended a hand, releasing a tiny scroll with a simple message: "Trust your instincts." Sasuke glanced at it, a faint smirk appearing. "Not bad." Throughout the course, Kazero's presence helped the team move together more smoothly. It carried small notes, past reminders, and offered silent encouragement. At the end, as they gathered beneath a tall oak, Kakashi clapped once. "Well done." This exercise wasn't just about speed or strength, it was about working together and trusting each other. He glanced at Naruko. "Kazero shows that even puppets without weapons can be powerful." Naruko beamed, her heart full. Her puppets weren't just tools, they were friends, teachers, and teammates. And together, they were ready for whatever came next. The Hidden Leaf Shinobi were used to all kinds of missions, from scouting and reconnaissance to training exercises and occasional small threats. But today's assignment was unlike any Naruko had faced before. Early that morning, a message arrived from a nearby village nestled deep in the forest. Their young ninja had been struggling, not with enemies or traps, but with a mysterious restlessness spreading through their community. The village elders feared that anxiety and fear were growing, causing confusion and worry, especially among the children. Naruko's team was called to help. Their task wasn't to fight or capture anyone, it was to bring calm, clarity, and hope. As they approached the village, soft murmurs and restless movements greeted them. Children darted between trees, looking worried. Parents whispered anxiously. Even the birds seemed quieter than usual. Naruko took a deep breath and released Shiomori into the air. The cloud puppet floated gently, spreading a faint mist scented with mint and lavender. A few children paused to watch the gentle shimmer, their eyes growing wide. Then Naruko sent out Kazero, the Wind Guardian, whose smooth blue-green limbs moved with slow, soothing grace. Kazero extended its arms like willow branches, swaying lightly as a soft, rhythmic hum vibrated through the air, an unspoken lullaby of calm. Naruko knelt beside a small group of children who clung nervously to their parents. "It's okay," she said softly. "We're here to help. You're safe." Kazero reached out a delicate hand and released one of its tiny scrolls. A child caught it and unfolded the message, which read simply, "Breathe. You are not alone." Slowly, the tension in the village began to ease. Parents smiled softly, children stopped their restless pacing, and even the elders seemed lighter. Naruko and her puppets led simple breathing exercises, gentle stretches, and quiet games of shadow puppets, each moment weaving peace and connection. At sunset, the village square was filled with calm laughter and warm smiles. The mysterious restlessness had faded, replaced by a shared sense of hope. Kakashi watched Naruko from the edge of the crowd, nodding quietly. "You proved that strength isn't just about battle," he said. "It's about healing, listening, and being there when it matters most." Naruko smiled at Kazero, who shimmered softly beside her. Sometimes, the wind is the strongest force of all. The sun had just begun to set, casting a soft amber glow over the quiet village square. Most of the villagers had returned to their homes, their faces lighter and calmer than when Naruko and her team had arrived. The gentle rustle of leaves whispered in the evening breeze as Naruko packed away her puppets. A small voice called out from behind a tree. "Miss Naruko?" Naruko turned to see a little girl, no more than 8 years old, stepping timidly forward. Her eyes were wide and curious, but there was a flicker of hesitation in her gaze. "Hi," Naruko said softly, crouching down to meet her at eye level. "Did you like Kazero's story?" The girl nodded, clutching the tiny scroll Kazero had given her earlier. "It helped me when I was scared." Naruko smiled warmly. "That's why I built Kazero, to remind us all that it's okay to feel scared, and that we're never really alone." The girl's eyes shimmered. "Sometimes, I feel scared of the dark. But when I looked at Kazero, it felt like a gentle breeze telling me it's okay to breathe and be brave." Naruko reached out and gently touched the girl's shoulder. "That's very brave of you. Being scared is part of being strong, it means you care about what's around you." The girl smiled shyly. "Will Kazero come back if I need help again?" Naruko nodded. "Whenever you need a little wind of courage, Kazero and I will be here." The girl hugged her scroll tightly and whispered, "Thank you, Miss Naruko. You and Kazero made the scary feelings go away." Naruko's heart swelled with quiet joy. "Remember, you have courage inside you, just like Kazero. And if you ever feel scared again, just breathe and listen to the wind." As the girl ran back toward her home, Naruko watched her disappear into the soft twilight, feeling more certain than ever that her puppets were more than just tools, they were beacons of hope, friendship, and gentle strength. The journey back to Hidden Leaf was quiet, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot the only sound as Naruko and her team made their way along the forest path. The village they had helped faded behind them, but the memory of the peaceful smiles and calm eyes lingered like a gentle breeze. Naruko walked beside Kazero, the Wind Guardian's delicate limbs moving with a fluid grace that seemed to echo her own thoughts. Her mind replayed the scenes of the village, the children's fears, the parents' worries, and how, with just a little calm and kindness, the restlessness had melted away. When they reached the familiar gates of Hidden Leaf, the bustling life of the village felt both comforting and full of new possibility. Naruko paused, looking up at the towering Hokage rock, the faces of past leaders watching over the village. She felt a quiet determination rise within her. She turned to her team, who looked to her expectantly. "This mission showed me something important," Naruko began, her voice steady and warm. "Puppets can do more than fight or protect. They can help heal, listen, and bring people together." Fukuramu fluffed his paper feathers in agreement, and Shiomori hovered close, glowing softly. Naruko's eyes sparkled with new purpose. "I want to create a school, a place where young ninja can learn to use puppetry not just for battle, but for kindness and support. Where we teach that strength comes from compassion as much as skill." Her teammates exchanged surprised but hopeful looks. Even Kakashi, who had been watching quietly, nodded approvingly. "That's a brave goal," Kakashi said. "It takes vision and heart to change how we see what it means to be a ninja." Naruko smiled. "I want puppetry to be about connection, the threads that tie us all together. Just like Kazero, our puppets can be friends, helpers, and guides." From that day forward, Naruko's work shifted. She began designing new puppets that could assist with healing, communication, and even teaching. She shared her mission with fellow ninja, inviting them to see puppetry as a bridge, not just a weapon. Hidden Leaf started to buzz with fresh ideas, and Naruko's school slowly took shape, a place where puppetry became a language of kindness, creativity, and strength. And through it all, Naruko carried Hiroshi's pendant close to her heart, a reminder that the strongest puppets are those made with love. The sun rose high over Hidden Leaf Village, filling the streets with bright light and eager voices. Today was special. Naruko's school was hosting its very first Puppet Harmony Festival, a celebration of puppetry as a gentle art of connection, not just battle. A large crowd gathered in the village square, buzzing with curiosity. Parents, young ninja, and elders alike had come to see what this new style of puppetry could offer. Naruko stood proudly beside her puppets, Kazero, Shiomori, Fukuramu, and Tetsuki, all poised and ready. As the festival began, Naruko stepped forward, her voice calm but full of excitement. Today, we'll show you that puppetry can be more than fighting. It can help us listen, understand, and work together. She signaled to Kazero, who moved with graceful sways. The Wind Guardian's soft hum filled the air, and delicate scrolls floated from its fingertips like leaves on a breeze. Naruko guided Kazero to pass messages of encouragement to children in the crowd, who smiled as they received the gentle words. Next, Shiomori performed a beautiful dance in the air, weaving clouds of mist scented with calming herbs that drifted over the audience, helping nervous children relax and parents smile. Fukuramu and Tetsuki joined forces in a playful puppet relay, showing how teamwork and support could overcome obstacles. No strength needed, just trust and cooperation. The crowd watched in amazement, their usual expectations of puppetry shifting with every moment. Then came the grand finale, a puppet circle where Naruko invited audience members to join in, moving their own puppets together in harmony. The square filled with laughter, music, and colorful movements. Kakashi, standing quietly at the side, nodded with a rare smile. Naruko, you've shown us all a new way to see strength, not just in battle, but in heart. As the festival ended, villagers lingered, inspired and hopeful. Naruko looked around at the joyful faces, her heart full. She knew this was just the beginning. Puppetry was becoming a language of kindness, and she was proud to help teach its words. The days after the Puppet Harmony Festival were filled with new energy and ideas. Naruko's school was growing, attracting young ninja eager to learn a different way to use puppets. But as with any new path, challenges were bound to appear. One morning, a messenger arrived at the school with urgent news. A nearby village was troubled by a wild creature that had been accidentally frightened and was causing chaos, not through malice, but sheer confusion and fear. The villagers needed help calming the creature and guiding it back safely to its forest home. Naruko saw the worry on the messenger's face and felt a stirring deep inside. This was the kind of mission her puppetry style was made for, but it would require careful skill and patience. Gathering her team, she explained the situation. This isn't about fighting. It's about understanding and helping. Kazero and the others will guide us. At the village edge, the team found signs of disturbance, broken branches, scattered leaves, and distant rustling. They moved quietly, Naruko's fingers weaving chakra threads to control Kazero and Shiomori. Suddenly, the creature appeared, a large, gentle forest beast, eyes wide with fear and confusion. It wasn't aggressive but clearly scared. Naruko didn't hesitate. She sent Kazero forward, its soothing hum and gentle movements designed to calm. Slowly, the puppet extended one hand, releasing a scroll that fluttered in the breeze. You are safe. We want to help. The creature paused, nostrils flaring as it took in the calm energy. Shiomori floated nearby, casting a soft mist that smelled like the creature's home forest. With great care, Naruko guided her team to encircle the beast, not to trap, but to comfort. The creature's breathing slowed, and it lowered its head slightly. Naruko whispered, "It's okay. We're here to help you find your way back." The team led the creature gently, Kazero's graceful movements encouraging trust, Shiomori's mist creating a peaceful atmosphere. Finally, the beast reached the forest's edge, turning back once as if to say thanks before disappearing among the trees. Naruko sighed in relief, her heart swelling with quiet pride. This mission showed me that gentleness is a strength, not a weakness, she said to her team. Kakashi, who had joined silently, smiled. You've proven that understanding can be as powerful as any jutsu. Keep walking this path. Naruko nodded, ready for whatever challenge came next, her puppets by her side, weaving bonds stronger than any thread. In the quiet moments after a long day of training and missions, Naruko often found herself alone in her workshop, surrounded by the familiar scent of wood shavings and ink scrolls. The soft glow of lantern light flickered over the delicate curves of her puppets resting on their stands. Among them, Kazero stood apart, not just as a puppet, but as a companion, a silent friend whose presence comforted her in ways words couldn't. Naruko sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully adjusting the silk threads that connected her chakra to Kazero's slender limbs. She marveled at the smoothness of its joints, the way its eyes seemed to reflect a calm breeze she felt deep inside. Kazero, she whispered, you're more than just a puppet, aren't you? A soft hum vibrated through the cords as if Kazero was answering in its own way. Naruko smiled, remembering the day she first carved those graceful arms and peaceful face, inspired by Hiroshi's words about compassion and connection. Every curve and thread was woven with care, not just to move, but to feel. She ran her fingers along the puppet's shoulders. You helped me remember why I chose this path. Not to fight harder, but to understand deeper. Her other puppets, Fukuramu, Shiomori, Tetsuki, sat quietly nearby, each with their own personality and purpose. They were tools, yes, but also extensions of her heart. Naruko closed her eyes and pictured the faces of the children and villagers they had helped, the way Kizaru's gentle presence had eased fear, the soft messages carried like whispers on the wind. Sometimes, she felt lonely as a puppet master walking a different road. But with Kizaru, she never felt truly alone. "Thank you," she said softly. "For being my friend when words aren't enough." The puppet's arms extended in a slow, graceful gesture, like a comforting embrace. Naruko took a deep breath, feeling the bond between them strengthen, a silent promise to keep building puppets that could heal, inspire, and protect in their own gentle way. Because to Naruko, puppetry was more than just skill, it was a language of the heart, and Kizaru was its truest voice. The soft afternoon sunlight filtered through the paper windows of Naruko's workshop, casting gentle patterns on the wooden floor. The room was filled with the familiar scent of cedar and ink, and the quiet hum of puppets resting on their stands. Across from Naruko sat a young boy named Haru, eyes wide with nervous excitement. It was his first day as her apprentice, and though he was eager, his hands trembled slightly as he held a set of thin threads. Naruko smiled warmly. "Puppetry isn't just about controlling your puppet with strength or speed," she began. "It's about understanding. About listening to the story your puppet can tell." Haru looked up, curious. "Listening? How can a puppet talk?" Naruko gestured toward Kizaru, who stood gracefully nearby, its arms poised like gentle waves. "Not with words, but with presence. With the way it moves, the way it can comfort or inspire. Puppets are extensions of ourselves, they show our hearts." She reached out, carefully guiding Haru's fingers to feel the subtle vibrations of chakra threads. When you connect with your puppet, it's like building a friendship. The more you care, the more it can do, not by force, but by trust. Haru nodded slowly, absorbing the idea. Naruko continued, "I used to think puppetry was about battle, like Sasori and others. But I learned there's another path, a path of compassion. We can help others, bring calm, and create hope." She smiled, eyes shining. "That's why I built Kizaru, to remind us that sometimes the strongest moves are the quietest." Haru's grip on the thread steadied. "I want to learn that too." Naruko's heart warmed. "Good. Because the world needs more gentle warriors." Together, they practiced slow, flowing movements, threads weaving like whispers in the air. With every motion, Naruko saw Haru's confidence grow, and in that quiet exchange, the bond between puppet and master deepened. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, Naruko knew that through teaching, her gentle puppetry would continue to bloom, one heart at a time. As the seasons changed and the leaves danced softly in the breeze, Naruko's school grew into a place where puppetry was no longer just a tool for battle, but a language of kindness. She watched with pride as her students, like Haru, learned not just to move puppets, but to listen with their hearts. Together, they crafted puppets that healed, comforted, and inspired. Kizaru, ever graceful and calm, remained by Naruko's side, a reminder of the gentle wind that carries hope and courage. One quiet evening, as the village settled beneath a blanket of stars, Naruko stood atop the hidden leaf rooftops, looking out over the village she loved. She thought of the mission in the forest, the children she'd helped, and the new path she was forging, not with force, but with compassion. Naruko smiled softly and whispered to the night air, "Strength isn't just about fighting. It's about caring. It's about being there when someone needs a friend." Her puppet swayed gently beside her, silent but full of life, symbols of a new kind of ninja, where courage and kindness walk hand in hand. And as the wind carried her words across the village, one thing was clear. The greatest power a ninja can have is a heart open enough to help, heal, and understand. If you ever feel unsure, remember Naruko's journey, that gentle strength and compassion can change the world, one small kindness at a time. Dear subscribers, I truly hope you found this video interesting and engaging. Your support means the world to me, and every like, comment, and share helps this community grow stronger and better every day. If you enjoyed the content, please don't hesitate to share it with your friends and fellow fans. Let's spread the love and passion together. There's so much more to come, and I can't wait to bring you even more exciting videos, deep dives, and fun discussions. Your feedback and suggestions always inspire me, so feel free to drop your thoughts anytime. Thank you again for being part of this amazing journey. It's because of you that I keep pushing forward, creating, and sharing. Sending love and good vibes to each and every one of you. Stay awesome, stay passionate, and until next time, Take care. With all my heart. 6 Path Weeb.